Another story that I really like about the Silvani and the sort of more helpful style is one around nettle. And you know, the stinging nettle is revered throughout the Alps, as it is everywhere around the world where nettle grows, as a sort of great food and mineralizing tonic. It's really rich in protein, it's rich in calcium and iron, just really, really good for us. And you know, herb wives and the people who know will cook nettles every spring to really help kind of strengthen and re-enliven the physiology after a long winter. But the story I'm thinking of involves a young farmer who had really bad luck in spring planting out his fields of corn and squash. And he finally, for the third time, had gone out and just planted out new seeds, and it's like early June, and it's his last chance to get a crop in. And he just gets done and is wiping the sweat off his brow and kind of sitting up against a rock wall when all of a sudden, out of nowhere, pops up this little man on the rock wall next to him. And he kind of doesn't really know what's going on when he sees this guy and is like, well, hello. And the old man with his long beard kind of looks at him and says, you've done good work here. The elder mother will be happy. And the farmer says, well, that's nice of you to say, but look at those clouds that are running up the valley. I think there's going to be another hailstorm. They look really menacing, and I can start to hear the rumble of thunder. And in fact, this big storm was rolling up the valley and threatening to wash out his field. Now, if you've ever been in the Alps, you know the grade in these mountains is pretty intense. So they'll do their best to kind of terrace the fields, but they're very vulnerable when it's sort of open soil planted with seeds. The whole thing can get washed out immediately. So he was thinking that this was going to happen again. And the Silvano looks at him kind of puzzled and says, well, why would that happen? Look at these great nettles you have growing right here. And in fact, there was this really thriving nettle patch right next to the compost pile there. And the farmer said, well, what the heck do you mean? I mean, I know nettles are sometimes cooked into food and soups, but how good is that going to do me here? And the Silvano says, well, don't you know nettles stop rain and can divert storms? All you have to do is take some stalks full of leaves and burn them on a fire, and the smoke will rise, and no storm can handle nettle smoke. No storm spirit can deal with that smoke. They'll run away, and they'll spare your field. And the farmer says, really? And he starts to make his way towards the nettle patch with a Silvano. The Silvano jumps into the nettle patch, dives right in there, and immediately disappears. The farmer says, okay, well, I better try this. A few sprinkles were already starting to come, and so he quickly cut down some nettle stalks, and he was getting stung, and he was like cursing at the nettle sting, but he ran down to the south end of the field where the storm was coming from and got a few embers out of his cottage from the morning cooking fire and started a quick fire and then threw those nettle stalks on there, and the fire started to pop and hiss, and this thick blackish gray smoke started rising, and as it rose, the clouds literally parted as if that nettle smoke were a knife cutting through the storm front. And these curtains of rain started falling on either side of his field, but his field was completely spared. His crop grew bountiful and was great by the end of the year. And he told the story to all of his buddies. And from that day forward, nettles have been used for weatherworking, for controlling storm and rain in the Alps. And farmers swear by burning that smoke. Most of the time it works.